It's a high fly ball into deep left field. She is gone. Dodgers lead 3-2. And there it goes. We have a tied up game. There was no doubt about it. And Andre Ethier, the lost man, the seldom used, is now asked to win the game. Little chopper to third. The play is at the plate, and it gets away from Iannetta, and the Dodgers win it 5-4. It's time for Dodger baseball. Live from Angel Stadium in Anaheim, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Angels. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Wednesday evening to you, wherever you may be. Dodgers and Angels. Dodgers in first place, 2.5 games in front of the Giants. The Angels in second place, 2 games back of the Oakland A's. The numbers tell quite a story. When the Dodgers and Angels play at Dodger Stadium, the Dodgers have won 25 and lost 25. However, when they play down here in Anaheim, the tables are reversed. The Angels have won 32 and the Dodgers only 16. What you do have tonight, an interesting battle between the best home team in the major leagues, that would be the Angels, against a team tied for second as the best road team in the major leagues, and that would be the Dodgers. Dan Harron, a former Angel for 3 years, will be on the mound for the Dodgers. He is 8-9, 20-10 in a long career in interleague play. As for the Angels, they'll start Matt Shoemaker. He is 5-2 at home this year, 9-3, and he is 1-1 in interleague play. He beat Philadelphia, and he lost to the New York Mets. So, with all of that, we'll get to the ball game right after this. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Wednesday evening to you, wherever you may be. Welcome to Angel Stadium in Anaheim. Game 2 of the series. The Dodgers and the Angels battling to a split in the first 2, and now 2 here. And the game tonight featuring Matt Shoemaker and Dan Haren. For the Angels, when they take the field, they are 2 games behind Oakland. And for the Dodgers, although perhaps the news has not gotten to the dugout, the Giants are leading the Brewers 4-1 in the 5th inning. Michael Morse has knocked in 3 with a couple of base hits. Sandoval knocked in another. And the Giants have taken care of Giovanni Gallardo. Ryan Vogelsong is pitching with a 4-1 lead in the 5th inning. So the Dodgers coming up with a clutch victory last night to pick up the game to go 2.5. And now we'll see what they can do at Anaheim, because at Angel Stadium it has not been a favorable place. In fact, over the last series between the Dodgers and the Angels here in Anaheim, the Angels have won 8 of the 9, and that adds up to 19 victories for the Angels and only 7 for the Dodgers. So Haren and Shoemaker, and then tomorrow night the concluding game, and that'll be Hyun-Jin Ryu and C.J. Wilson. The Angels take the field, the fireworks go off in center field, and we're just about ready to get this game underway. We can take a look at Don Mattingly's lineup. The Dodgers, a marvelous ball club on the road, and the Angels even better at home, so it's a collision. Dee Gordon leads off at second base. Yasiel Puig in center, Adrian Gonzalez at first, and Hanley Ramirez at short. Matt Kemp is the DH. Carl Crawford in left. Andre Ethier is in right. Justin Turner at third. A.J. Ellis behind the plate. By the way, if you look at the lineup, you'll see Crawford and Ethier back-to-back left-handers. One of the big reasons why the Dodgers are able to play Ethier and Crawford along with Puig is the fact that the Angels do not have a left-hand pitcher coming out of the bullpen. So the Dodgers feel comfortably that they can field 3 left-hand batters, including Andre Ethier. Of course, it was Ethier last night who hit that slow chopper to third, and it resulted in the winning run. Matt Shoemaker, they tell me, a very nice guy. He is 9-3. He is 5-2 here. He has beaten Philadelphia, and he lost in relief to the Mets. For Matt Shoemaker, a very pleasant surprise, especially here at home. He's from Wyandotte, Michigan. That's a town of about 26,000, 11 miles south of Detroit. He went to Eastern Michigan University, and he's a big fella, 6'2", 225. He will be 28 years old the end of September. Shoemaker, interestingly enough, was undrafted out of Eastern Michigan. He is the only American-born undrafted pitcher to start a game in the major leagues this year. That's incredible. So Shoemaker is ready, and so is the Dodger leadoff man, Dee Gordon. Gordon hitting .295, 2 home runs, 26 RBIs, 51 stolen bases. That's more than 7 major league teams combined. And the first pitch to D, he has a look and pays a strike. And the count 0-1. So Gordon, the point guard, trying to get something started. He had a couple of base hits and a stolen base last night. Strike 1 pitch way off the plate. It's a beautiful evening here in Anaheim. 75 degrees. Not a cloud in the sky. Shoemaker turns on the rubber, and Matt comes back, and it's fouled away upstairs behind the plate. 1 ball and 2 strikes. So Gordon followed by Puig, followed by Gonzalez. Shoemaker into his windup, comes right back with a pitch in the dirt, kicks to the screen, and they count 2 balls and 2 strikes. Matt Shoemaker played for the U.S. national baseball team 4 years ago in the Baseball World Cup. He was also on the Pan American team that won a silver medal. And the next pitch to Dee Gordon, he shows bunt, drops it down, barehanded on the bounce and throw to first. A marvelous play by Hank Conger. So the Angel catcher one-hands that high chopping bunt and throws out Gordon, and we have one away. So Gordon down 2-3. Big play by Hank Conger, and now the batter will be Yasiel Puig. So one away. Conger making a fine play. Yasiel ready to check in. Puig last night appeared to be so anxious to do something. He was 0 for 4, and he only saw 5 pitches. We'll see now if he lays off the first pitch tonight. Schumacher delivers. Nope. Line drive, base hit down the left field line. Over to get it is Hamilton. Puig easily into second base, rounding second and holding on. So Yasiel still eager to do something, and this time he produces a bullet into the corner for a double. So Yasiel got a breaking ball. First pitch, lined it over the head of the third baseman John McDonald and down the line. So with a runner at second and one out, Adrian Gonzalez and Hanley Ramirez trying to pick him up. 31 doubles for Puig. Meanwhile, Eric Ibar will try to bird dog him out there and take a step away. Adrian, the butter and egg man, he's delivered 15 home runs, 72 RBIs. He is high in both departments for the Dodgers. So the veteran hitter checks in. Out of a stretch goes Matt. Shoemaker at the belt, and the big right-hander now to the plate, and the fastball away, ball one, 1-0. Matt Shoemaker is 9-3. That makes him a very successful pitcher, but he's had trouble with left-handers. Collectively, they're hitting .299 with 6 home runs against him. Shoemaker set at the belt. Now the 1-0 pitch on the way. Right-hander deals, little breaking ball off the plate, and the count 2 balls and no strikes. Matt Shoemaker has a pretty good beard if you're not watching on television, so much so when he was pitching for Arkansas, they commemorated the beard in a t-shirt. They also had removable goatees that would sell to the fans. 2-0 pitch coming up to Adrian. Instead of pickoff play, and Puig back to the bag. Boy, that would be all the Dodgers needed after getting A.J. Ellis picked off last night. You would have heard the noise from here to L.A. had Puig been nailed, but he was able to get back before Ibar. So Yasiel at second with a double to left, 1 out, and Gonzalez trying to pick him up. Shoemaker out of a stretch. Another look back at Puig. Now the right-hander to the plate. Breaking ball is fouled back. 2-1 the count. Gonzalez doing very well, much better than the team with runners in scoring position. Last 4 games with runners in scoring position, the Dodgers collectively were hitting less than 100. Now the 2-1 pitch on the way to Adrian Gonzalez, and the big right-hander Shoemaker turns and comes off the rubber. Shoemaker at home last year and this has struck out 51 and allowed only 3 home runs. That's 8 games. Matt, a high set, now drops down to the belt. 2-1 pitch to Adrian is swung on. Hard ground ball. Great diving stop by Kendrick to throw him out. Yasiel Puig takes third. Kendrick takes a run away from the Dodgers with that sparkling play. So that had base hit all over it, except to everybody in the ballpark except Howie Kendrick. So Kendrick, a dazzling play, and with 2 down, the batter is Hanley Ramirez. Another great play by a wonderful second baseman. We've got 2 dandies with D. Gordon and Howie Kendrick. So here's Hanley Ramirez. Shoemaker, by the way, with runners in scoring position and 2 out, he has held the hitter to a 154 batting average. Though Hanley checks in against him, and the first pitch, fastball strike, 0-1 to count. 154 batting average. against a team hitting less than 200 or even less than 100 with a runner in scoring position. So Puig down the line would have walked home except for that great play by Howie Kendrick. 0-1 the count to Hanley Ramirez. Shoemaker over the top fastball, swung on and missed, and the count 0-2. So the Dodgers groaning under the load, their inability to pick up a runner in scoring position. And again, we remind you the Giants are leading 4-1 tonight, bottom of the fifth inning in Milwaukee. Shoemaker leads in, reading Conger, who made a fine play to get Gordon. And the strike two pitch to Hanley Ramirez. Shoemaker delivers in the dirt. Nice save by Conger. That reminds us, of course, with a runner at third, we look it up and find that Shoemaker has 3 wild pitches, and Conger saved him a fourth. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Matt will be 28, 6'2", 225. Now the right-hander very carefully out of his stretch. And the 1-2 pitch to Hanley, swung on and missed, and the Dodgers do it again. They leave a man in scoring position, although tonight it was a great play by Howie Kendrick to keep Puig on base instead of scoring. And at the end of half an inning, Dodgers nothing, and the Angels coming up. No score. It is so typical. One of my all-time favorites is Mike Scioscia. The other night when the Angels beat the Dodgers, it was his 1,300th win as a manager. So here in the bottom of the first inning, they saluted him, musical, with Frank Sinatra singing My Way, and Scioscia immediately got behind Baylor so nobody could see him. He just didn't want the spotlight. Typical Mike Scioscia. Here is the Angel lineup. Cole Calhoun in right field, Mike Trout in center, Albert Pujols at first, Josh Hamilton in left, Eric Ibar at short, Howie Kendrick at second, just saved a run. Then you have Efren Navarro, the DH, Hank Conger, the catcher, the veteran John McDonald at third. Dan Herron going to the mound. Once upon a time, he was one of the best pitchers in interleague play for 7 years of his career. He started out those 7, 11-3, but the last couple of years, 9-7. His first pitch will lead off man Calhoun in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Calhoun, a solid player, hitting .280, 11 home runs, 32 runs batted in. Herron comes right back and works it low and inside, 1 ball and 1 strike. Calhoun, who's had his share of injuries, he's from Buckeye, Arizona. There's some debate whether he's 5'10" or not, but he's awfully close to that. Hits a comebacker, speared by Herron, who jogs over and flips it to Adrian Gonzalez, and we have one away. And now make way for Mike Trout after we take a look at the Dodgers defensively. Crawford, Puig, and Ethier. The infield for the Dodgers, Turner, Ramirez, Gordon, Gonzalez. The battery for the Dodgers, Dan Herron and A.J. Ellis. The amazing Mike Trout. He will be 23 years old tomorrow. He has a list already of his accomplishments longer than your arm. He's hitting .305, 25 home runs, 81 runs batted in, fastball, low ball one. His name is already mixed with Jimmy Fox, Joe DiMaggio, Mel Ott, Ted Williams, Alex Rodriguez, Al Kaline, Orlando Cepeda, Ken Griffey Jr., Al Kaline, and Mickey Mantle. Those are the players. I won't bore you with the list of accomplishments. The next one to young Mike is a little low. And the count 2 balls and 1 strike. He is really put together and yet runs like the wind. 6'1", 235. Herron ready, comes back to him. Fastball, a high fly ball. Backing out onto the grass at shortstop is Hanley Ramirez to put it away. So Mike Trout pops it up. He has a string going. He's had at least 1 hit in 20 straight games against National League teams. Now he's 0 for 1 tonight. 2 out in the first inning, and Albert Pujols coming up. Had a wonderful visit before the game. 3 little guys came into the booth. Max and Mason McGuire, Mark's son, and A.J. Pujols, the son of Albert. First pitch now to Pujols, taken low, ball 1. 1 ball and no strikes. Pujols last night had a double and homered in the 8th inning to tie up the game. Albert, as usual, with big numbers, and the right-hand hitter swings, hits another dribbler back to Dan Herron, who flips it to Gonzalez, and a very easy first inning. So the Angels go down in order, 1, 2, 3, and at the end of an inning, no score. Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear with superior performing tires that knock it out of the park. Goodyear, more driven. Second inning, no score in the ball game. The DH Matt Kemp, then Carl Crawford and Andre Ethier. Interesting note about Matt Kemp. Within the first 2 pitches in his plate appearance in his career, he's hitting .428. Well, let's see about the first two pitches tonight. Shoemaker's fastball in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Eric Ibar is behind Mike Trout in interleague base hits. Shoemaker ready, comes back with a fastball low, so the first two pitches, you have 1 ball and 1 strike. Now we'll see about the third. Matt Waiting had a big night last night, scored twice, fastball in the dirt. Matt singled, rode home on Uribe's home run, and then later on reached on the error, stole second, took third on an overthrow, and scored on Van Slyke's fly ball. Struck out in the 8th inning, and now here he is leading off tonight. 2 balls and 1 strike the count. Shoemaker back with a breaking ball, misses, and that runs the count to 3-1. No score, we're just starting. Shoemaker, 2 fastballs, a splitter, and a changeup. The 3-1 pitch is swung on and missed. That might very well have been the change. He took a lot off it. 3-2 the count. The changeup that he throws is a splitter. Matt gets comfortable behind that beard, looks in for a sign. 3-2 pitch, fastball lifted to left field and deep. Back goes Hamilton to the track at the wall. It is gone. Kemp hits it out, and the Dodgers lead 1-0. Matt Kemp's 14th home run, 50 runs batted in, and boy, he is really hot, and that's exactly what the Dodgers need. That would be his 12th home run against right-handers. The National League Player of the Week that ended August 3rd gets a hero's welcome, and the bubble machine is alive and well. You know, last night when Uribe hit his home run, there were no bubbles. The pitch is in for a strike to Carl Crawford. However, we were told, Lon Rosen passed the word along, don't worry, the bubble machine is active. Well, sure enough, they turned it on here in the 2nd inning. Crawford fouls it away. Take another look. Matt Kemp got one above the belt. Big swing. He knew he hit it, and hit it he did. This is a big ballpark. We'll give you the dimensions in a moment. Crawford takes in the dirt. 347 down the left field line, falling away to 390, and that's where Matt hit the ball. 396 to straightaway center, 365 to right, and down in the corner, 350 down the right field line. And then there's the difference of the fences as Crawford fouls it back. When you start with the left field foul line, the wall is 8 feet high, and way back when, that wall stayed 8 feet all the way around to the right field foul pole. But in 1998, they said, no, we're going to have to build it up. A hopper, another Kendrick dive, and then he drops the ball. Howie Kendrick, another diving stop, and then this time couldn't get the throw off, and Crawford will have a base hit. Anyway, in 1998, that's when they made the right and right center field wall 18 feet instead of 8. Kendrick double clutching, drops it after another great try. He robbed Gonzalez, but not this time with Crawford. So 1-0 Dodgers on Kemp's home run, and the batter is Andre Ethier. A little ground ball to third base. David Freese barehanding, throwing off line. Iannetta couldn't get it, and the Dodgers had the winning run. So here's Andre starting tonight. Throw to first, and Crawford back on the bag. Crawford has stolen 13 out of 16, so he could be going anytime. Justin Turner playing third base, hitting behind Ethier and batting 8th. Shoemaker out of a stretch, 1-0 Dodgers, 2nd inning. Right-hander set at the belt, over the top, and the pitch is low. 1 ball and no strikes. Jim Reynolds is the plate umpire, the same group that worked the games at Dodger Stadium. Jim's 45. He's been in the big leagues 15 years, from Hartford, Connecticut. In fact, he attended the University of Connecticut. 1-0 the count to Andre Ethier. Shoemaker, very deliberate, turns, throws to first. Crawford, a threat, gets back to the bag. Both teams trying to increase themselves away from the 500 mark. If the Dodgers win, they would be 15 games over. If the Angels win, they would be 23 games over. 1 ball and no strikes. Ethier waits. Shoemaker, and there goes Crawford. The change for a strike. Conger double touched and couldn't throw. And for Crawford, he was fortunate he could run on a good pitch. It was off speed, and then Conger didn't have a good rip and wisely held on to it. So Crawford has stolen 14 out of 17. So the combination, an off-speed pitch and a double clutch and an easy stolen base for Crawford. So nobody out. 1 ball and 1 strike the count to Andre Ethier. Shoemaker ready, looks back at Crawford. Fastball away from Ethier, and a 2 ball 1 strike count. We'll repeat what we told you when we were giving you the Dodger lineup. The Dodgers able to have back-to-back Crawford and Ethier left-hand batters because the Angels do not have a left-hand reliever. Justin Turner waiting on deck. 2-1 pitch coming up, and it stays in the strike zone. That balances things up. 2-2. That looked like a change at 80. Matt Shoemaker 5-2 at home. Carl Crawford single, steals second. Dodgers trying to pick him up. Remember, they left Puig in the first inning. 2-2 pitch on the way to Andre, and that's in the dirt, blocked by Conger. 3-2 the count. Shoemaker, the scouts all say his changeup is a quality offering. The others are average or below. Below or not, he's 9-3. Right-hander ready, and the 3-2 pitch coming up. Shoemaker looks back at Crawford, now to the plate, swung on, fouled away. Dribbling over to the Dodger dugout. 3-2 the count. And here in Angel Stadium, as Matt Kemp put his brand on it with a home run, the attendance, if it's a sold-out ballpark, they'll have 45,483. It doesn't look quite sold out, but it's a good crowd. 3-2 the count to Andre Ethier. Shoemaker ready. The pitch is squirted foul off to the left, and it's still 3-2. Game started. Gordon tried to bunt his way aboard. The ball took a big bounce. Conger bare hand and threw him out. Puig doubled. Gonzalez robbed of a hit by Howie Kendrick that would have given the Dodgers a run, and then Ramirez struck out. But Kemp homers, leading off the second, and the Dodgers lead 1-0. 3-2 the count to Andre Ethier. Shoemaker ready. Matt comes over the top. Line drive down the right field line. Base hit into the corner. Scoring easily is Crawford. Into second base goes Ethier, standing with a double, and the Dodgers lead 2-0. So Carl Crawford singles, steals second, and comes home. Andre Ethier with a line drive double and an RBI, and the Dodgers out in front. That was a far cry from the ball he hit last night to win the game. Driven into the right field corner. Andre with a double and a run batted in. For Ethier, 14 doubles and 38 runs batted in. Carl Crawford, who had stolen his 14th, brings home a run. That would be the 27th time that Crawford has scored. So the Dodgers out in front 2-0, and the batter now, Justin Turner. So in the inning so far, Kemp homers, Crawford singles and steals second, Ethier doubles, and here's Turner. Out of a stretch goes Matt Shoemaker. Turner waits at the plate. Shoemaker's first pitch in for a strike. Interesting, Matt Kemp homered on a 3-2 pitch. Andre Ethier doubles. on a 3-2 pitch. So Shoemaker determined not to walk anybody, and he's paid the price. Justin Turner having a solid year for the Dodgers. Right-hand hitting infielder. Fastball swung on and missed. That thing hurried up at 90. Turner with 3 home runs, 23 runs batted in, and hitting .301. He's been very, very effective with runners in scoring position, hitting .301. Not many Dodgers can say that. And he's trying to pick up Andre Ethier. Ibar behind Ethier and a high fastball. So that runs the count. 1 ball and 2 strikes. 22 pitches made so far by Matt Shoemaker here in the second, and on Ellis waiting on deck as Andre Ethier takes his lead from second base. Shoemaker a high set, then drops down to the belt buckle. A look back at Ethier and a fastball inside under the hands. 2-2 to count to Justin Turner. So Carl Crawford, after a single, a stolen base, scoring from second, sitting behind Josh Beckett trying to catch his breath. Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits, leading 2-0. The 2-2 pitch on the way, and that's low, so here he goes again. That's consecutive 3-2 counts, and we'll see what he does now with Turner. Mike Scioscia watching his starting pitcher in a little trouble. Dan Herron taking it all in behind Matt Kemp. 3-2 to Justin Turner. Shoemaker ready. Ethier at second. Breaking ball misses for ball 4. He tried to come back with the curveball and couldn't get it. So the inning is still alive. The Dodgers, with a home run, a single, and a double, have amassed 4 hits and 2 runs. And the batter will be A.J. Ellis. And there's a meeting at the mound. Mike Butcher, the pitching coach for the Angels, out to talk to Matt. Shoemaker, 6 years ago, was a victim of being unlucky. He was doing very well coming out of Eastern Michigan University in his junior year. And just about as the draft was going to come, he broke his arm. So that wrecked his velocity, so he wasn't drafted. In fact, they did not believe, the scouts did not believe he would ever come back. But here he is, not only pitching in the big leagues, he's won 9 games. Meanwhile, the Giants are still leading the Brewers 4-1 in the 7th. Vogelsong got out of a jam in the top of the 7th inning. 2 on, they're looking bunt from Ellis. He shows bunt and gets it down nicely. Coming in to pick it up is McDonald. High throw, but able to get his foot back on the bag is Hendrick. That almost went down the line. And Howie Hendrick, quick reaction on the throw by McDonald. So Ellis sacrifices, and we have runners at second and third. That thing was saved by Kendrick. So 1 out. Second and third, and the Dodgers now have Gordon and Puig. First base open. The corners are up, McDonald and Pujols. Shoemaker plants the right foot, and D. Gordon checks in. Tried to bunt for a base hit. Conger threw him out, making a nice play. Dodgers trying to add to a 2-0 lead. Shoemaker delivers. It's swung on and missed. Pitch in on the hands. 0-1 the count. In his leadoff role, Gordon has 26 runs batted in. However, he has really struggled with runners in scoring position until this year, when he's hitting .341 in a pressure spot. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Fastball fouled away upstairs off the facade and then down below. So Gordon immediately in a hole, with the Dodgers leading 2-0 and a chance to get more. No balls and 2 strikes. First base open. Ethier and Turner out on the lines. Shoemaker on the rubber, then off, now back on. Dodgers have never faced Matt Shoemaker. First time they've seen him. Here's the strike 2 pitch coming up to D. Gordon. Shoemaker ready and delivers, and it's chased and missed, and down goes Gordon. They're just trying to make contact, but Shoemaker strikes him out. Yep. He follows the affliction for the Dodgers all year, inability to come up with a big hit. Now let's see about Yasiel Puig. The Angel fans give Puig the same welcome as the Dodger fans gave to Mike Trout. Yasiel doubled in the first inning, going after the first pitch, breaking ball, and hit it into the left field corner. So Yasiel batting .318, 13 home runs, 55 runs batted in, and a very big at-bat. Shoemaker ready, right-hander delivers, and it's foul back, 0-1. That was off the plate, off speed, and Yasiel, who's really now, let's see, had 5 pitches in 4 at-bats last night. He's had 2 pitches, and he has swung at both so far tonight. So that's 6 plate appearances, 7 pitches he has seen. So Puig is eager. We'll see now if he pays the price. Shoemaker ready in the strike 1 pitch to Yasiel. That's inside, and a 1-ball, 1-strike count. The firebrand just seems to beat himself to death with the bat if you watch him every at-bat. Maybe it just loosens him up a little bit. He indeed was a slugger in the major leagues in the month of July. The 1-1 pitch on the way. Check swing. That'll cost him. And the count 1-2. Puig in the month of July slugged .688. Right now the Dodgers don't care about slugging as Yasiel talks to Jim Reynolds. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Dodgers lead 2-0. They've had a golden opportunity to add to it, but Gordon struck out. Now we'll see about Puig. Shoemaker ready. Here he comes. Fastball in the dirt. Nice block by Conger. As we mentioned, Shoemaker has 3 wild pitches. So Kemp homered, Crawford single and stole second. Ethier doubled him in. Turner walks. Ellis sacrifices. However, Gordon struck out. So second and third, 2 out, and the deuces are wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on, and 2 in. Shoemaker ready, and the pitch to Puig. Fastball inside. A 91-mile-an-hour fastball. So another 3-2 count in this inning. Shoemaker doing a high wire act, and Mike Scioscia a little puzzled looking out to his young pitcher. Shoemaker will be 28 in September. Matt looks in. Puig waits. 3-2 the count. Shoemaker checking his runners at second and third. Right-hander deals. Fastball hit foul outside of third and down the line. A pitch up and in. So Shoemaker working up against Puig, checking his bat. Been a tough inning for Matt. He's made 36 pitches. This one coming up is number 36. It would give him 50 pitches in the first 2 innings. He says no to Conger. Still no. Puig tired of waiting and backs out. Down the line from third, Andre Ethier. Away from second, Justin Turner. 2 out. 3-2 the count. Shoemaker ready. Conger in a crouch off the plate. Fastball fouled away. It was 92 on the outside part of the plate, and Puig fouled it upstairs. Fastball alley. So 3-2 again. 50 pitches now for Matt Shoemaker in an inning and 2/3. Still, so far so good for him, down only 2-0. Puig trying to add to that. Now Shoemaker is ready. The 3-2 pitch to Yasiel Puig. Shoemaker set, ready, and it's a fastball for ball 4. 92 miles an hour, and I will say, Mike Scioscia hollering out to Jim Reynolds. What was wrong with that? Was it inside? Reynolds doesn't answer him, but the bases are loaded for Adrian Gonzalez. We can take a look. It was high and outside, and Puig showing patience. Amazing. After all the point we were making about him swinging at the first pitch, Puig goes 3-2 and walks. And in case you wonder, for Yasiel, he's walked 49 times. So the bases are loaded with 2 out, and Adrian Gonzalez the batter. Out of a stretch goes Shoemaker, fighting to stay in the game now. Right-hander delivers, little roller. Charging it is Kendrick, picks it up and throws him out. The worst thing the Dodgers can do is load the bases, because they are the worst team in the major leagues under those conditions. But they still scramble for 2. It starts with Matt Kent's home run, then Crawford single, stolen base, the double by Ethier, and at the end of an inning and a half, 2-0 Dodgers. Dodgers take a 2-0 lead as we go to the bottom of the second inning. We take a look about successful home teams, and we're going to have to hurry to show it. Atlanta leads the way, followed by Oakland against Tampa Bay, and Cleveland as Hamilton hits one foul down the right field line. So maybe we can look at that again as we were running out of time. Atlanta has beaten up on Colorado that much, 62-25. Oakland the same with Tampa Bay. Cleveland has worn out Tampa Bay. And the Angels have done a number on the Dodgers here, 32-16. Hamilton fouls another one away, and the count 0-2. By the way, we were talking about the fact the worst thing the Dodgers can do is load the bases. As insane as that sounds, the Dodgers this year, with the bases loaded, are hitting 155. Adrian Gonzalez just made the contribution. Hamilton, meanwhile, a fly ball slicing to left field. Crawford is right there and makes the catch. So one away in the second inning. It was a little interesting that Adrian Gonzalez would walk up there against a young rookie pitcher who had made 50 pitches and 37 pitches in the inning. And on the heels of 2 walks to Turner and Puig, that's the old story. Adrian figures he's going to try and get ahead of me. He'll try to sneak a fastball over. Adrian went after it, and a little ground ball to Hendrick, and the story is written in the second inning. So the batter now, Eric Ibar, shows bunt and takes off the plate. interleague play for the last 2 years, it might surprise you, not that Mike Trout has 75 hits, but it might surprise you that Eric Ibar has 69 hits. He hits a fly ball to center. Puig is out there waiting and makes a two-handed catch. Hello, Albert Pujols. Yeah, Yasiel has learned a lesson from the other night. No one-handed wrist-snapping catch. Two hands. Smart play. Way to go, Yasiel. Howie Kendrick has made a couple of dazzling stops. One he made to get an out. That was on the ball on Gonzalez. The second time he made the stop, but he couldn't make the play, and that was on Crawford. The pitch to Howie, in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Kendrick hitting .283, a very consistent hitter. When the year is over, he's always hitting right around .290 in almost every category: home, away, day, night, runners in scoring position, etc. 1-1 pitch on the way, and that's low and inside, ball 2. 2-1 the count. Dan Haren has made 17 pitches, got 3 outs on 9 pitches. The 2-1 pitch is a hopper to the left of Hanley Ramirez. He takes his time and makes it a little closer at first base. So Hanley takes care of Kendrick. Angels go down 1-2-3. That means 6 in a row, and it's time for Shoemaker to go back to work. 2-0 Dodgers. Two to nothing lead into the third inning, and it'll be Hanley Ramirez, Matt Kemp, and then Carl Crawford. Ramirez struck out in the first inning, 0 for 1. Haren has made 9 pitches in each inning for a total of 18. Matt Shoemaker has made 52 pitches in his 2 innings. Matt into his windup, and the first pitch to Ramirez swung on and fouled upstairs as Hanley loses his bat, and the count 0-1. Interesting thing I didn't know before, maybe you didn't either, talking about Albert Pujols. Before the game, 3 little boys came up to the booth to say hello. Max and Mason McGuire, Mark's boys, and Albert Pujols' son, AJ. And AJ is in his 8th grade, and we were talking to the kids about playing ball, and I asked AJ, I said, what high school are you going to go to? And he said, I'm home taught. The pitch in the dirt to Hanley, 1 ball, 1 strike. And I said, what do you mean, AJ? He said, well, I'm taught home so that I can travel with my dad. So as Albert stars on the field, young A.J. sits quietly in the stands with the thought of going home with Dad after the game or back to the hotel. The pitch to Hanley in for a strike at the knees. 1-2. So Jim Reynolds getting a little discerning look and an unhappy look from Ramirez. He got one from Mike Scioscia. Because you're an umpire, you're going to get them from everybody. The 1-2 pitch on the way. Fastball hit down the line, foul. Back into the stands in right field. 1-2 the count. For the Angels, in looking at the attendance, they're averaging a little more than 38,000, and they've drawn 2,000,001. The Dodgers are averaging almost 47,000, and they have drawn 2,000,006. Hanley backs away, 2-2 the count. As you can well imagine, tremendous interest in Southern California as Matt Kemp waits. 18 times in World Series history, the teams from the same city or metro areas have gotten together. Hanley, a fly ball to left field, fooled on an off-speed pitch. Hamilton puts it away, and we have one down here in the third inning. And the batter will be Matt Kemp. Matt Kemp, who hit one deep into the seats in left center. That went out right where the fence is marked, 390. And it went back up after bouncing once about 5 rows, and that brought to life the bubble machine. And it also gave the Dodgers a lead of 1, and they've added 1 to lead 2-0. Matt Kemp takes the next pitch low. Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits. Angels nothing across. We're in the top of the third. Next pitch is pulled foul outside of third. Lorenzo Bundy gives that a wide berth, and it hits the stands and comes back to him. So Matt on a tear, 14 home runs, 50 runs batted in. And back up 1-1. Shoemaker's next pitch swung on and missed, and the count 1-2. Two things seem to coincide. The post game following the All-Star game, and then his move to right field. The next pitch is low, so that balances things up. 2 balls and 2 strikes. So Don Mattingly, once he moved Kemp from left to right, that just seemed to settle everything. Of course, right field is where Matt first started. 2-2 pitch coming up, swung on and missed, and down he goes. So Matt, with his home run, has homered in 6 of his last 9 games, but he comes up empty this time. That also would be the 3rd strikeout for Matt Shoemaker. Carl Crawford singled despite a tremendous effort by Howie Kendrick. Then he stole second and came home on the double by Ethier. Shoemaker's fastball low and away. 1 ball and no strikes to Carl. Interesting breakdown on Shoemaker. His next pitch in for a strike, off speed. Going into this game, the first 3 spots have combined in the lineup to hit 379 against him, and the last 6 spots only 206. Crawford fouls it back. Didn't quite work that way tonight, although Puig did double in the first inning. But the action came with Kemp, Crawford, and Ethier, the numbers 5, 6, and 7 hitters. Curveball, a high chopper. It's Pujols to grab it barehanded, transfer it to the glove, and make the tag. So a 1-2-3 inning for Matt Shoemaker. Dodgers go quietly, and at the end of 2.5 innings, Dodgers 2, Angels nothing. Bottom of the third inning, 2-0 Dodgers. Don't forget Zach Greinke's bobblehead night, Wednesday, August the 20th, compliments of Las Vegas. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion. Bottom of the third, 2-0 in favor of the Dodgers. It should be noted in the minutes of this meeting that the Angels have overcome 13 two-run deficits to win. And the first pitch to Navarro outside for ball one. The Angels have also come from behind 9 three-run deficits to win. 1 ball and no strikes to Efren. Left-hand hitter, DH, big fella, takes a look at a pitch that misses. 2-0 the count. Giants leading the Brewers now 4-3, bottom of the 7th inning. Aramis Ramirez singled in 2, and they're still very much alive against Jeremy Affeldt. Bottom of the 7th, Giants 4, Brewers 3. Navarro, left-hand batter, lifts one into right field. It's playable. Ethier and Puig, but it's Ethier all the way, and Andre makes the catch. So Navarro, fly ball to right field, 1 down. Talking about the Giants, they got Brandon Belt back, and now we understand Angel Pagan will be activated tomorrow. He's set to arrive in Milwaukee near the end of tonight's game. And we know, not only first-hand knowledge of watching, but statistically, Angel Pagan means a great deal to San Francisco. They win with him. So here now is Hank Conger. Catcher takes a strike. 0-1 the count. Hank 229, 3 home runs, 23 runs batted in, and he promptly pulls one down the right field line, and it will hook foul, not quite to the foul pole, but in the corner. Hank, born in Federal Way, Washington, but he lives in Huntington Beach. He went to Huntington Beach High School. He was inspired to be a big league player by Chan Ho Park, the first Korean player. Hank also got some assistance from Brent Maine, a major league catcher who spent a year with the Dodgers back in 2004. Hank's first name is Hyun. However, his grandfather, who is a second-generation Korean American, couldn't pronounce it. So we're not going to try. And it was his grandfather, since he couldn't pronounce Hyun, called him Hank in honor of Henry Aaron. And that's good enough for us. So here's Hank, 6'2", 220, switch hitter, 26 years old. Aaron ready in the 2-2 pitch on the way, and that's fouled back. Milwaukee settled for the 2 runs in the 7th inning. So they go to the 8th inning with the Giants stubbornly holding on to what is now a 4-3 lead. The veteran John McDonald is on deck. 2-0 Dodgers, bottom of the 3rd. Aaron ready, pauses, now comes over the top with a fastball fouled away. Dan Aaron always reminds me of an Asian pitcher. He's one of the few big league pitchers who actually stops in his delivery. It's a wise move as far as getting your entire body into the pitch rather than just your arm. So he turns, stops, and then delivers. Ground ball in the hole, smothered by Gordon, sitting down, gets it to Adrian Gonzalez. Well, we've been talking about the fact we have 2 acrobatic, solid second basemen, Howie Kendrick and Dee Gordon, and they have each made a couple of wonderful plays. Gordon this time sliding on the grass, and while sitting down accurately gets it to Adrian. 2 outs. So another nice play. Dee seems to be coming up with one just about every game. That also helps Aaron. It's retired 8 in a row, and the veteran John McDonald coming up. So Kendrick, who has robbed Gonzalez, now has Gordon take one away from him. Line drive by McDonald, foul down the line. 1-1 to count. John is going to be 40. Life begins at 40 for John near the end of September. He's from New London, Connecticut, went to Providence College, and lives in Situate in Massachusetts. He tries to bunt, fouls it back. Now, how many 40-year-olds do you know trying to bunt for a base hit? McDonald was originally signed by the Indians out of Providence College. He's been a pro since 1996. Had a pretty good career with the Indians, then a very solid career with the Blue Jays, 2 years with the Diamondbacks, then the Pirates, back to the Indians, then the Phillies, the Red Sox, and now the Angels. Hits one off the end of the bat, and he's still up there on the foul ball. 1-2. John is listed around 5'9", maybe 5'10", the best. 185. They all call him Johnny Mac. The 1-2 pitch on the way. Fastball off the corner. 2-2. Herron starts to pitch, then hesitates, backs off, not quite ready. Dan from the first base side of the rubber. And the 2-2 pitch to John McDonald. Fastball hit in the air to straightaway center. Puig, let's see if it's two hands or one. It's two hands again. So down go the Angels. Dan Herron has retired 9 in a row. And the Dodgers lead 2-0. Here's Professor Albert Pujols and student Yasiel Puig. Remember Monday night after the fly ball, Pujols tagged up from first and went to second, made fun of Yasiel catching the ball limp-wristed, one hand. And he did it a couple of times to the amusement of his teammates. And then tonight, the diploma should be given out twice now. Yasiel settles under a fly ball, and each time two hands as opposed to the way he's been catching. Graduation time for Yasiel as he stands along veteran Carl Crawford and the hooded Juan Uribe. Ground foul off the bat of Ethier. 0-1. Andre doubled into the right field corner to score Crawford in the second inning. No balls, one strike. Fastball hit up the middle. Kendrick will run it to the grass, and his throw offline. So Ethier comes up with his second hit, and he is 2 for 2. Five hits for the Dodgers against Matt Shoemaker. Kendrick runs it down, but not much of a chance. Howie trying to be everywhere at second base. So Ethier at first, Justin Turner coming up. Justin walked in the second inning, hitting .308. Turner has played first, second, short, and third. Tonight playing third. Ethier doesn't figure to do much running because he hadn't played much. He has one stolen base and he's been caught twice. Usually if Ethier is going, it's part of a hit and run play. Fastball misses. I think two of the bigger surprises so far this year: D. Gordon becoming an all-star, and the day in and day out contributions of Justin Turner. Gordon back in the dugout resting for the moment. 1 ball and no strikes. Fastball in there. 1-1. It's always interesting when you're watching a game to see where the catcher sets up and then to see where the pitch goes. The other night, Conger looked like he was way off the plate, setting his target, and the pitch that struck Uribe out was way up and way in. There goes Conger. And the pitch inside hits the bat. The play to second base, not in time. So Turner tried to get out of the way, dribbles the ball back to the box, and Ethier gets a safe call at second. And Mike Scioscia is not satisfied. There was nobody covering the late play, and the right leg of Eric Ibar may or may not have stationed itself on the bag. Ethier is called safe. We can take another look. The check swing caught the infield flat-footed. Mike saying okay as he has listened. Well, we can take a look at it. Kendrick couldn't move. Ibar got to the base late. Hesitance, then the throw. The question was Ibar's right foot, because he went across the bag, and according to the second base umpire, Manny Gonzalez, he was off the bag. So are we going to have an official review? Well, Mike now meeting with all 4 umpires. We either have a runner at first and 1 out, or runners at first and second and nobody out. What fooled them was Turner just trying to get out of the way of the pitch and having it hit the bat. So I will now assume it's an official review. Sometimes the umpires will call their own review. If you take a look at where Hank Congers is, see, he's just off the plate. The pitch goes way inside. The check swing picked up by Shoemaker, but he had to wait because Ibar was a little late. And they used to call it as he drags the right foot. Did it make contact with the bag? Second base umpire Manny Gonzalez said no. They used to always call this the neighborhood play. If you were anywhere around second base, they'd call the runner out. In this neighborhood play, Andre Ethier was called safe. We'll wait and see. To me, every time there is an official review with all the high-tech equipment, it's a tribute to the umpires. Let's see what they say. Out. So Ethier is out on Turner's force play. It's 1-6 if you're scoring. Now Don Mattingly comes out and wants to get the news. As we said, with all of the great equipment we have, slowing things down in slow motion, etc., what it does is pay tribute to the umpires who must use the naked eye and in a millisecond make the call. So 1 out. Turner is at first. Play going 1-6 from Shoemaker to Ibar. And here's A.J. Ellis, sacrificed in the second inning. So Turner at first, held on by Pujols. 1 out, 4th inning, 2-0 Dodgers. In for a strike, 0-1. We mentioned earlier, Shoemaker on his game is very tough on the hitters at the bottom of the lineup. However, Ethier has spoiled that, going 2 for 2, hitting 7. No balls, 1 strike, 2-0 Dodgers, 4th inning. Justin Turner at first base, although we don't expect him to do any running, hitting 8th in the lineup, but he is 3 for 3 in stolen bases. 0-1 the count. In the 8th inning, the Giants have just picked up a run and have increased their lead now to 5-3 over Milwaukee in the 8th. Oh, 2. Giants picked up the run. Joe Panik singled home the insurance run. And the Giants still at the plate, leading 5-3 in the 8th. Socia sending out his own signals to his catcher, Hank Conger. No balls, 2 strikes. One and 2. Pretty tough pitch to take with 2 strikes. AJ with a good eye takes a look down to Bundy. Socia, meanwhile, sending a message to Conger, who will then send the message to Shoemaker. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Turner stays on ball 2. AJ came into the game hitting 194. Put his second sacrifice of the year down. Two and 2. Off the rubber. Ethier singled. Turner forced him on a check swing. Ellis the batter, and D. Gordon on deck. And down goes Ellis. So A.J. strikes out. Gordon holding at first base. And D. Gordon coming up. 4 strikeouts for Matt Shoemaker. Gordon tried to bunt for a base hit. Conger threw him out in the first inning. And then Gordon, with the bases loaded, struck out in the second inning. Actually struck out with runners at second and third. Puig walked to load the bases, and Gonzalez grounded out. Little breaking ball in for a strike. 0-1. D hitting .294, 2 home runs, 26 runs batted in. Fastball hit to center. Right there is Mike Trout. Picks it off, and that's out. Trout will be batting second in the bottom of the fourth inning, and the Dodgers trying to hold on to a 2-0 lead. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the all-new Chrysler 200, America's import. Dodgers scored 2 runs back in the second inning, trying to make the 2 stand up. And in the bottom of the fourth inning, it will be tested. It'll be Cole Calhoun, Mike Trout, and then Albert Pujols. Calhoun hit back to the box in the first inning, 0 for 1. Trout popped up in the first inning. And then Pujols, who hit back to the box in the first inning. Calhoun has fought off a lot of injuries. Ball 1. Cole broke in with the Angels 2 years ago. Picked up his first big league hit, a double, in his second big league at bat. 1 ball and no strikes. The teammates on the Angels got the so-called base hit ball. They had Calhoun's name misspelled. They had the wrong date on the ball. And then they finally relented and got the original ball as first hit. That's a strike. 2-1 the count to Cole Calhoun. Right now, Dan Herron has retired 9 in a row, allowing 4 fly balls. 2-1. 2-2. Foul tipped, and down he goes. So Calhoun strikes out. 10 in a row retired by Dan Herron, and now here comes Mike Trout. Mike Trout has at least 1 hit in 20 straight games against National League teams. He popped up in the first inning on a 2-ball, 1-strike count. And you might say, well, what's the count got to do with it? Well, this year, on a 2-ball, 1-strike count, he's hitting .667. He takes a strike. 0-1. The remarkable Mike Trout, 23 tomorrow, after all that he has accomplished. Unbelievable what he has done. One ball and 1 strike. Mike 6'1", 235, much bigger than Mickey Mantle. Way out in front of a change, 1 and 2. Mantle 5'11", 195 pounds. There's that off-speed pitch. Mick played 18 years and hit 536 home runs. High fastball, 2 and 2. Trout started off hit for the cycle last year. So the kid against the veteran. Fastball whacked to center. Back goes Puig, away back, short of the track, and makes the catch. 396 feet to the wall in center. And we have 2 down in the 4th inning. With the bases empty, Yasiel gave it the one-hand casual catch. Maybe he uses one hand for select customers, 2 hands for others. Well, now let's see what he does with Albert Pujols. Albert hit back to the box in the 1st inning, hitting .277, 21 home runs. Ball 1. Pujols began his career just like Mike Trout. That's a strike. In fact, the first 10 years of Albert Pujols' career would really be a goal for Mike to shoot at. 2-1 to Albert. 34 years old, 6'3", 230 pounds. Came to the Cardinals back in 2001. Foul back. For Albert, this is his 3rd year with the Angels. His first 10 years, well, he had more home runs than Henry Aaron, more RBIs than Stan Musial, a higher average than Tony Gwynn, and more runs scored than Ricky Henderson. And strike 3 call. So wait a minute. Dan Herron has retired 12 in a row. And at the end of 4, it's 2-0 Dodgers. Dodgers lead the Angels 2-0. A reminder, Sunday, August 24th, Dodgers and Mets at 1:10, and the first 40,000 fans in attendance will take home a Matt Kemp figurine, presented by New Era. For tickets and more information, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Matt Kemp homered in the 2nd inning. Dodgers added 1 more, lead 2-0, and now in the 5th, it'll be Yasiel Puig, Adrian Gonzalez, Hanley Ramirez, and the Wolves come out for Puig. Going to keep track of fly balls. He used two hands on the fly ball by Ibar. He used two hands on the fly ball by McDonald, and he used one hand on the fly ball by Trout. Giants, meanwhile, have opened it up. They're leading Milwaukee 7-3. Pablo Sandoval hit a two-run home run, and the Giants up by 4. Puig fouls it to the screen. 0-2 to Yasiel. Shoemaker has allowed 2 runs, 5 hits. Look at Conger. So far outside, pretty hard to get the ball to him on the fly. 1-2. Matt Shoemaker tonight, C.J. Wilson tomorrow night. Fastball popped in the air, a trio of Angels. Middleman is Trout. So far, Trout has popped up and flied to center. Puig has doubled, walked, and flied to center. And with 1 out, Adrian Gonzalez. Gonzalez robbed of a hit in the first inning, a diving stop by Howie Kendrick, who then scrambled to his feet and threw him out. And then with the bases loaded, first ball swinging, grounded out. First ball swinging, foul ball upstairs. Adrian, 15 home runs, 72 runs batted in. He's also scored 53. Oh, 2 the count to Adrian Gonzalez. On deck, Hanley Ramirez, who has struck out and flied to left. And a drive to right. Calhoun moving to his right. 3 fly balls in the row now. Gordon, Puig, and Gonzalez. And the batter, Hanley Ramirez. This is a good-sized ballpark. The Angels have hit 52 of their 92 home runs here. The opposition has hit 45 home runs here. Hanley batting .271. Strike. Ramirez struck out in the first inning, flied to left leading off in the third. Hamilton, Ibar, and Kendrick due up in the bottom of the fifth. Fastball missed. 1-1. And fastball misses again. One thing about Shoemaker, he has the reputation of throwing strikes. He has walked 2 thus far. Puig in the second inning and Turner in the same inning. Herron, of course, has always been known as a control pitcher. 2-2 the count. Shoemaker prefers to pitch to Conger. They always match up the catcher and the pitcher's earned run average. ERA is 3.4 with Conger, 4.6 with Iannetta. Breaking ball, whacked foul. Interesting that the Angels have been very successful, the most successful team at home this year for Mike. They've led the majors in home wins twice. Going back to 1967, they missed the playoffs. 2007, they lost in the division series. The Dodgers have led the majors in road wins 5 times since moving to Los Angeles. In 62, they missed the playoffs. 63, they won the World Series. 74, they lost the World Series. 85, lost the League Championship Series. And the same story in 2013. And Hanley Ramirez strikes out a second time. So the Dodgers go 1-2-3. And at the end of 4.5, it's still Dodgers leading 2-0. Goodyear with superior performing tires that knock it out of the park. Goodyear, more driven. The Dodgers lead 2-0 as we go to work in the bottom of the 5th inning. But one thing, Matt Shoemaker has really turned it around. When he went through the lineup the first time, he gave up 4 hits and 7 at-bats, including a walk. But the Dodgers since have just stopped completely. Since then, the Dodgers are 1-for-12 since the first time around. That one hit was an infield single by Andre Ethier. So Mattingly and company leading, but it's going to get tougher. Hamilton flied to left, no swing. One ball and one strike. Off speed, hit down to Ramirez. So Hamilton taps to short. 1 away. That also means that Dan Haren has retired 13 in a row. And wearing number 14, he'll face Eric Ibar, who flied to center in the 2nd inning. Ibar at 5'10" is a very good bunter. Popped the bunt up last night, first at bat. Ground ball right to Gordon. 14 in a row now, retired by Dan Haren. Leading 2-0 in the 5th inning. The batter Howie Kendrick grounded to short in the 2nd inning. 2 runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, no hits for the Angels in the 5th. ball one. We were talking before about Shoemaker. Good control walking too. Aaron is one of the best control pitchers in the game. 2-0. He averages less than 2 per 9 innings. Shoemaker has not gotten to that level yet. Now 3-0. Kendrick with 2 out. Efrain Navarro is on deck. And a strike. 3-1 the count to Howie Kendrick. 2 down, bases empty. That's going to go foul down the right field line, back into the big crowd. 3-2 to Howie Kendrick. Giants are winning handily in Milwaukee, so the Dodgers must win to remain 2.5 in front. Breaking ball got him swinging, and now you start to look at Aaron in a differing note. Is this the fellow who's given up 20 home runs in the last X number of games? No, it's the guy who has retired 15 in a row, and the Dodgers lead 2-0. In 1961, the Dodgers were playing the Chicago Cubs in the Coliseum, and Maury Wills, known for stealing bases, hit his first major league home run. He went on to hit 20, but of course he will forever be known for the 376 stolen bases. Nevertheless, we called him the mouse that roared, and one time during his career with the Dodgers in New York at the Polo Grounds, he hit 2 home runs in one game from the left side and the right. And back to this game we go. That's in for a strike. 0-1 to Matt. Homered and struck out, so you talk about the elevator, the ups and the downs. One hopper. Whoa, what a nice play by the veteran John McDonald. One away. I mean, that thing was ripped. And McDonald makes a good play. If you want to know about the life of a ball player, take a look at John McDonald. We'll give you what happened to him last year, and you'll get the idea. John McDonald, in March of last year, Arizona sent him to Pittsburgh. June the 10th, Pittsburgh sent him to Cleveland. In June, Cleveland sent him to Philadelphia. In August, Philadelphia sent him to Boston as Crawford sends one into center field. Arizona to Pittsburgh to Cleveland to Philadelphia to Boston, all those trips in 5 months. The life of a ball player. Crawford with his single The Carlos 2 for 3. Andre Ethier 2 for 2. In the Angel bullpen, Jason Grilly begins to warm up. Big story right now is Dan Herron. He's gone 5 innings without allowing a hit. In fact, he's retired 15 in a row. So Rick Honeycutt sitting next to him. Remarkable. 3 strikeouts and, as usual, no walks. Shoemaker, meanwhile, had the Dodgers down after they got the 2 runs. They were 1 for 12 until Crawford got the base hit. Crawford a threat to steal, of course, and did in the second inning. Crawford has stolen 14 out of 17. 1 out, 6th inning, 2-0 Dodgers. Shoemaker made a lot of pitches in the first 3 innings. He made 67 pitches in the first 3. The second inning was brutal, where he made 38 pitches and gave up the 2 runs. Pitch out, no action. Crawford holding. You ask veteran managers, when do you call a pitch out? And most of them say the same thing. You get a feeling after all your years in the game. And, of course, obviously a good base stealer at first base. When Crawford stole second in the second inning, it was a changeup that helped, and then Conger double clutched and didn't have a play. Two runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers, no runs, no hits for the Angels. Top of the 6th. Two and 0. You have to watch a catcher. It's a very interesting and important position. Once in a while, a catcher will tip off. They have to watch it. In a recent series, not going to mention when, the opposing catcher had his glove with the pocket of the glove down on every breaking ball. Conger is trying to remind Shoemaker to keep the ball down, but he's not tipping the pitches. Two balls and 1 strike to count. Hank again looking over to Mike Scioscia. Still looking. Now he's ready to flash the sign to Shoemaker. Again reminding him, keep the ball down. Look at that glove. Barely off the ground. When the Angels come up in the bottom of the 6th, Mike has Navarro, Congers, and McDonald. All right, Congers has read Scioscia. 2-1 to count, and Crawford at first. Crawford not gone. Foul back. 2-2. There was a famous catcher with the New York Mets many years ago. People used to laugh about it, but it was absolutely 100% true. His name was Choo-Choo Coleman, and the players who played with him would swear on a stack of Bibles. Coleman would go into crouch, he'd flash his fingers, and he would look down at his fingers to make sure he knew what the pitch was coming. I know you don't believe me, but it's true. Dodgers once had a catcher. When it was a fastball, this catcher would go down with his feet together. When it was a breaking ball, he'd go down and spread his feet. And it was pretty easy to figure out after a while what was coming up. Just low. Now 3-2 with one out. We'll see if the Dodgers play the so-called run-in hit, where Ethier is not obligated to swing at ball 4. Ethier has grounded into only 3 double plays. Crawford ready. Let's see. He draws a throw. Pretty close. Dodgers scored 2 runs in the second inning, led by Matt Kemp's home run, opening it up. Ethier had a big double to drive in Crawford for the other run. Crawford goes, and there's a comebacker down to the shortstop. Ibar out at second, out at first. So Andre Ethier hit it, and wisely, Shoemaker didn't go after it. He let Ibar handle it, and that's that. 2 quick outs in the 6th. The inning is over, and we're heading to the bottom of the 6th with a second look. Ibar on the bag, gets it to Pujols, and it's still 2-0 Dodgers.
Is brought to you by Subway. Try this month's $6 featured footlong, the barbecued oven roasted chicken melt. Subway, eat fresh.
We have a pretty rough pitching duel here. The Dodgers scored 2 in the second inning. Since then, they've had just 2 hits as Matt Shoemaker has really settled down. Meanwhile, Dan Haren has retired 15 in a row, and he'll be facing Efrain Navarro, Hank Congers, and John McDonald in the bottom of the 6th inning. Shoemaker has made 102 pitches, Haren just 59, and that's ball 1. Navarro flied to right. Efrain's from Las Vegas, went to the University of Las Vegas. An even 6 200-pounder, 28 years old. Graduated from Linwood High School. That's a blur going into the crowd. 1 ball and 1 strike. Back in 2008, the Angels named Navarro their minor league defensive player of the year. Put up some big numbers playing at Salt Lake, and here he is. Two balls and 1 strike.
breaking ball, late break for a strike. The infield swung around a bit to first base. Justin Turner way far from the bag. Hanley moving over to his left. The outfield, they pinched the middle a little. Down he goes. Third strikeout for Dan Haren. The closest to a base hit involved Hank Conger, who's coming up. That was back in the third inning, and Conger hit one exactly into the hole. A diving stop, and then while sitting down, Dee Gordon threw him out. That's the big play defensively so far. So Conger 0 for 1. And he hits it to left field, and there it is. Hit number 1 for the Angels, coming with 1 out in the 6th inning after Haren had retired 16 in a row. So Dan now will be facing John McDonald, or maybe they'll go to a hitter, and it looks like they're going to hitter. David Freese coming out of the dugout. So Freese, who played third base last night, committed a couple of errors, including the error on the final play, hoping for a chance to atone. So David hitting for the veteran McDonald. 1 out, a man on. Ellis going out to talk to Haren. I think more than anything, to just eat up a little time. Let Dan kind of digest the idea that he had 16 in a row, and then gives up the hit. Now back to work on David Freese. Freese has been a reasonably hot hitter of late. Fastball strike. Hitting .251. He's had 20 home runs in the last 30 games. He has a half a dozen home runs, 38 runs batted in. Has a look off the plate, 1-1. Game being played in an American League park, so you know the designated hitter. So you never think about hitting for the pitcher. 1-1. Fastball in there. Jason Grilly and Kevin Jepson beginning to throw now in the Angel bullpen. One ball, 2 strikes. 2-2. Conger at first base, so he is not much of a distraction. Conger does not have a stolen base, nor does he figure to do any running. So Dan pretty much concentrating on David Freese. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Fastball again low. So Haren, who did not give up a hit nor a walk for 5 1/3, has given up the hit, and now he's on the edge of giving up a walk. 31-year-old David out of Corpus Christi, Texas, was a big man with the Cardinals. Conger goes, fastball foul back. For David Freese, his name will forever be in headlines in St. Louis. Cardinals have been in 23 World Series. They've won 11, second only to the Yankees. And all of that, only one Cardinal, not Albert Pujols, has ever won a World Series game with a walk-off home run, and it was Freese. And he now gets a base hit, and Conger on his way to third. He is out at third. A great throw by Yasiel Puig. David Freese, a single to center. And boy, you talk about airmailing a throw. It went from Puig to Turner like an arrow. The hop, and here's the throw. Got him on a quick tag by Justin Turner. That's really the one play that I've been waiting to see by Yasiel Puig. I've seen a lot of good center fielders, but some of them are a little timid charging a base hit. They're afraid. They're thinking of the ball that will get by and go all the way to the wall. And that was the play we were waiting to see. And sure enough, Puig charged the base hit and got his man at third. Willie Mays was as good as anyone I've ever seen. He was never thinking negatively about having the ball get by. And playing in the old Polo Grounds, if Mays had let a ball get by, the ball would go 460 feet to center field. But Puig never hesitated, charged, and made the great throw. So 2 down. David Freese at first base. 8-5 if you're scoring. And Cole Calhoun coming up. And Conger back in the dugout after getting a base hit. Close but no cigar. So it's still 2-0 Dodgers. 6th inning. 2 out. Calhoun hit back to the box and struck out. Of course, with 2 out, Calhoun now is a very important hitter. He represents a potential tying run. And on deck, of course, is Mike Trout. Mike Trout popped to short, flied to center. 0-1. 1-1. Jamie Wright gets up in the Dodger bullpen. There's Jamie. One ball and 1 strike to Calhoun. Hitting .278, 2-1. I guess you couldn't blame Dan Herron if he's on the mound looking at Calhoun and thinking of Mike Trout. The big kid waits. Two and one. Line drive caught by Adrian Gonzalez, so Trout will be leading off instead of representing a tying run. And a magnificent play by Yasiel Puig. Charging the base hit by Freese. The arrow, a 1-hopper to Turner and the tag. And we're heading for the 7th, 2-0 Dodgers. Thanks to Yasiel Puig and Adrian Gonzalez, the Dodgers still lead 2-0 as we go to the 7th inning. What's ahead? Well, one more great meeting tomorrow night with the Angels. That will be Hyun-Jin Ryu and C.J. Wilson. Then for the Dodgers, off on the road they go. By the time they finish their night game tomorrow night, they'll get into Milwaukee in the wee small hours. And talking about Milwaukee, the Giants have just beaten them 7-4. Tomorrow afternoon in Milwaukee, Jake Peavy will be going up against Willie Peralta. David Freese, who singled to center, only to have Conger thrown out at third, stays at third for McDonald. Jason Grilli, the veteran right-hander, will pick up, and the Dodgers will have Justin Turner, who put the tag on the sliding Conger, followed by Ellis and Gordon. Jason Grilli, big fella, 6'4", 225, out of Royal Oak, Michigan, but he went to Seton Hall in New Jersey. Line drive into right field, base hit for Turner. He gets so many hits going the other way. So the first pitch, a base hit, the Dodgers 7th, and A.J. Ellis will be coming up. Grilli tying the laces on his shoes, so we might as well tell you it's kind of an interesting story. Jason Grilli and his father Steve Grilli both made their debut for the Detroit Tigers on September 9th, exactly 30 years apart. Steve made his debut September 9th, 1975. Jason, September the 9th, 2005. A.J. 0-1. Grilli will be A.J. checking for a moment. Grilli will have a birthday in the middle of November. And a fly ball to right field. Calhoun is there. And back to first base goes Turner. So the Dodgers disdain the bunt. Ellis a fly ball. And the batter will be D. Gordon. So a frustrated A.J. Ellis. He bunted in the 2nd inning. Struck out in the 4th. And now they let him swing in a fly ball. D. Gordon is 0 for 3. Tried to bunt his way aboard in the 1st inning, and Conger threw him out. Struck out in the 2nd inning and flied to center in the 4th. Whatever you do, don't go wandering off. I mean, when we get to the bottom of the 7th, the Angels will have Mike Trout, Albert Pujols, and Josh Hamilton. Now that's a group. One ball and no strikes. Fastball, check swing, no swing. Chris Siegel on the line at third. Really a big man, throws hard, been with a lot of clubs. Originally a first-round pick by the Giants, but came up with the Marlins. Marlins, White Sox, Tigers, Rangers, Pirates, and Angels. That's a strike. 2-1 they count. Really was originally drafted by the Yankees, but he passed up the offer to go to Seton Hall. 2 balls and 1 strike. Foul back. I was told, can't verify it, in talking about Grilli coming from New Jersey, where he went to college, the governor of New Jersey is here, Chris Christie. 2-2. Waiting on deck, Yasiel Puig, who has doubled and walked and then threw that arrow that nailed Conger in the 6th inning. And keeps it a 2-0 game in favor of the Dodgers. And Herron keeps him in the game. He's made 76 pitches in 6 innings. But boy, what a set of mountains to climb in the 7th, huh? Trout, Pujols, Hamilton. And if anybody gets on, the pest, Eric Ibar. Breaking ball, foul tipped. He's still up there. Two and two. Down he goes. Good fastball at 93. Gordon strikes out for the 2nd time tonight to go 0 for 4. And now here is Yasiel Puig. He gets the boos, and you can really understand it now. This is why he's being booed in Anaheim. Magnificent play, great throw. Yasiel doubled in the 1st inning, walked in the 2nd, fly to center in the 5th. Hitting .317. And a strike. Slider. Grilly throws sliders, fastballs, a cutter, and an occasional changeup. You ever heard of a pitcher being fined for striking out hitters? 1 ball, 1 strike. When Grilly was in the Giants organization and he was playing at Fresno, the pitching coach wanted him to get ground balls and fly balls. So he told him, I'm going to charge you $5 for each strikeout. It ended up costing Grilly $380, but he learned not to just try to muscle up on the hitter. 1-1. Fastball at 93, up 2-1. Meanwhile, Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke, they'd have to spend a lot of money if they paid $5 to Rick Honeycutt every time they struck out a hitter. 2-1. Dodgers lead 2-0. Top of the 7th inning, 2 out. There's the slider in the dirt, down to second base. Justin Turner without a play. Conger got a little dirt in his right eye as well. So Turner now in scoring position on the wild pitch. Got away from Conger. So Turner advances, and now Puig has a chance of picking up a run. On deck, Adrian Gonzalez, a 2-ball, 2-strike count. Two nothing Dodgers, 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, and a runner at second. Slider, 3-2. That slider is what gets Grilly the ground balls. Probably his number 1 pitch compared to the fastball. Turner at second, 2 out. 3-2 to Yasiel. Slider hit to center. Here comes Mike Trout. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left, and here they come now. The big Angels, the Archangels. Trout, Pujols, and Hamilton. 2-0 Dodgers. Bottom of the 7th inning, 2-0 Dodgers. Hard hits and seat belts now. Strike to Mike Trout. Trout, Pujols, and Hamilton. Trout has popped up to short and flied to center. He has a streak, at least 1 hit in 20 straight interleague games. 1 ball and 1 strike. Mike batting .303. 25 home runs, 81 runs batted in. Going after a bad ball, 1-2. Mike, besides knocking in 81, has scored 78. And with all those numbers you might forget or overlook, he is 12 for 12 in stolen bases. High fastball popped up. D. Gordon. So Trout 0 for 3, pops it up, 1 away in the 7th. That pitch was up, might have been out of the strike zone. Pretty hard to do anything but pop it up. Albert Pujols hit back to the box and struck out. Looking at his son, A.J., along with the 2 McGuire youngsters in the next booth just to our right. Strike. Just have to wonder what it must be like to be in the 8th grade and your dad is a superstar in baseball. Big chopper, nice hop for Turner. 2 down, 7th inning, 2-0 Dodgers. And Josh Hamilton coming up. Hamilton flied to left, rounded to short. The Angels no run, 2 hits. Single by Congers, a single by Freese that resulted in that great throw by Yasiel Puig to Justin Turner. Oh and 1 to Josh Hamilton. It's not like Herron is overpowering hitters. He just doesn't overpower hitters. He has struck out 3. Ground ball to Gordon. So for Dan Herron, he turns in a magnificent 7 innings. Let's not face it, pretty much of a big surprise the way things have been going for him, and he walks off leading 2-0. Two to nothing, favor of the Dodgers. We've moved to the 8th inning. And friends, be sure to bring the family to Dodger Stadium Sunday, August 17th at 1:10. The first 15,000 kids 14 and under in attendance receive their own Dodger lunchbox, compliments of Farmer John. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotion. The paid attendance tonight, 43,669. The capacity is a little over 45,000, so not quite a sellout, but it certainly will do. Fernando Salas out of Sonora, Mexico. I believe the town from Mexico, Coatabampo. He's 6'2", 200-pounder, 29 years old. He was signed by the Cardinals out of the Mexican League and came up to the Cardinals in 2010 and finally came over here this year. Adrian Gonzalez starting it off. Adrian robbed of a hit by Howie Kendricks, grounded to Kendricks, and lined out to right. He also made a great one-hand catch of a line drive hit by Cole Calhoun in the 8th inning. What made that so important, if Gonzalez doesn't spear the line drive by Calhoun, if it didn't score Freese, it would have put the tying runs at second and third and brought up Mike Trout. So that's how big that play by Gonzalez was, and so far has turned out to be. One and two. One thing we've noticed of late anyway, they are not over-shifting with Gonzalez. For a while there, every time he came up with the bases empty, they'd stack up the right side, but they've not been doing that. And he pulls one foul. Still 1 and 2. Adrian batting .257. 15 home runs, 72 runs batted in. He's also scored 53. Fouled away. Tampa Bay defeated Oakland 7-3. The Angels began the night 2 games back, so they'd like to win and cut it to 1. The Dodgers, meanwhile, fully aware the Giants beat Milwaukee 7-4, so they want to win to stay 2.5 in front. High pop fly left side, Freeze and Ibar. It will be Ibar. So Gonzalez pops it up, 1 away. Dodgers have had 3 singles since the 2nd inning, so they haven't given Hearn much of a support. They got him 2 in the 2nd inning, and that's basically it. Ramirez has struck out twice, flied to left, 0 for 3. His average now down to 270. Matt Shoemaker went 6 innings, allowed 2 runs, 6 hits. Jason Grilli 1 inning, 1 hit. And now Fernando Salas, and that's going to be a dunker into right field for a base hit. So Hanley, a little fly ball single, and the batter will be Matt Kemp. Matt Kemp led off the 2nd inning against Matt Shoemaker and took him deep. It's 390 at the fence, and that cleared him and bounced up into the stand. The bubble sheen working very well, thank you. Matt with 171 home runs, 6 back of Mike Piazza. Long way to go to catch Eric Harris. There goes the runner, Hernandez, and Hanley is in, but he'll come back on the foul ball. Matt, after the home run, struck out next time up and grounded to third in the 6th inning. When the Angels come up in the bottom of the 8th inning, Eric Ibar, Howie Kendrick, and Efren Navarro. Kendrick 0 for 2, Ibar 0 for 2, Navarro 0 for 2. 0-1. Fastball in there, 0-2. By the way, in talking about the attendance, 43,669. It's not the total. The ballpark, 45,483. Nevertheless, however, it is a sellout. And probably another one tomorrow night, for sure. Oh and 2. Hanley not going. 1-2 to Matt. And that's slapped to right. Calhoun makes the diving catch. Back to first base goes Hanley Ramirez. Good play by the stocky right fielder. 2 down. And the batter will be Carl Crawford. Calhoun making his play, having to leave his feet. And Ramirez scurrying back to the bag. So Cole puts it away. And the batter Crawford, 2 for 3 coming up, has a stolen base and scored a run. Fernando Salas 4-0 as far as victories and defeats are concerned. He has allowed 3 home runs. Right. 0-1. Salas has walked 12, struck out 34. Good ratio. Dan Herron, meanwhile, has struck out 3, not walked anybody. 1-1. Salas hits 90 on the gun on that last pitch. To repeat, Ibar, Kendrick, and Navarro due up bottom of the 8th. Hanley barely off the bag, still drew a throw. Fastball for ball 2. Salas, they tell us, growing up, never thought about ever playing in the major leagues. His goal was the Mexican League, and he made that. Two and one. Breaking ball fouled away. Interesting, a remark that Salas made, talking about playing in the Mexican League. And he said there's a lot of money to stay in the Mexican League. A lot of players in the Mexican League have a chance at American baseball, but they want a lot of money and stay in the Mexican League. I mean, isn't that a surprise? I mean, has he been reading the papers and seeing the salaries? Wow. There goes Hanley, and a towering fly ball to left. Hamilton coming near the line, and that'll be that. So the catch by Cole was a good play. No runs, 1 hit. Dan Herron's going to try and do it again. 7 innings. He's got the Angels shut down, and he leads 2-0. Be sure to join us for the next episode of Backstage Dodgers, a look behind the scenes at the series against the Braves. Backstage Dodgers tomorrow at 5, right here on Sportsnet LA. Miguel Rojas will take over at shortstop. That'll take Ramirez out of the lineup. Dan Herron with the infield swung around to first. Eric Ibar, a marvelous bunter, just trying to get aboard. He shows bunt, drops it down. Picked up by Turner, throws a bad throw. Ibar's aboard.
and you could really taste that bunt coming. So Ibar gets a base hit. That's all he wanted to get aboard. Turner tried, picked it up with his glove, and the throw offline. Usually on that kind of a play, you'll see the third baseman barehanded and throw. Justin tried. It was a perfect bunt, and Ibar is aboard. That's the third hit allowed, and here's Kendrick, 4 home runs. Fouled away. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Brandon Lee and J.P. Howell begin to loosen up. Kendrick followed by Navarro. Oh, and 1. Fastball lifted in the air down the right field line. Ethier has a shot, and in foul ground makes the catch. 1 away in the 8th inning. Efren Navarro coming up. Navarro flied to right and struck out. The Angels had back-to-back hits in the 6th inning. Hank Conger singled. David Freese came off the bench and singled. Puig made that great throw to nail Conger. And now a bunt single by Ibar. And let's see, that might be enough for Dan. With a left-hand hitter up, they'll probably go to J.P. Howell. Dan, a tremendous competitor, and he doesn't want to come out, I'm sure. But out he goes. A tremendous effort by Dan Herron. Wow. He had lost 5 in a row. They figured it would be a big shootout tonight, and instead he goes 7 in the 3rd inning and shuts down the Angels. A magnificent effort, and we'll be right back. Pat on the back from Don Mattingly. Of course, he's not finished. He goes out where he can only win or have nothing to do with it. He's responsible only for Ibar, who bunted himself aboard in the 8th inning. So the batter now will be C.J. Cron, big boy out of Phoenix, facing J.P. Howell, because Howell being called in, that was enough for Efren Navarro. So Cron, big fella, 6'4", 235, out of Phoenix. Went to school at the University of Utah. Cron hitting .269, He has some power, as befits a man of his size. 9 home runs, 29 runs batted in. Ball 1. So you have JP against CJ. JP is James Phillip, and CJ is Christopher John. Meanwhile, Eric Ibar with the bunt at first base. 1 ball and no strikes. Ibar is a good base stealer. He's stolen 12 out of 20. Whether he would try to go down by 2 in the 8th remains to be seen. One out. Off the plate. The catcher backing up Conger, sometimes the first string catcher, Chris Iannetta, comes out on deck. Interesting, Hank Conger is not going to play anymore from the looks of things. Conger at one time broke up Dan Harron's bid for a perfect game. Harron was also the starting catcher in 10 of Harron's starters with the Angels, and over those games Harron was 1-5. Joe Resnick passing it along. Conger is going out. Harron's already out. 2-0 the count to C.J. Cron. Big chopper foul. When playing at Inland Empire in the California League, Cron had 27 home runs. With Arkansas in the Texas League, he had 14, and he has 9 so far this year. His father was a former player and manager in the Tigers organization. And his father, like CJ, had a lot of power, hit 22 home runs in Double-A and 39 in 2 years at Triple-A. Chip off the old block. 2-1 to CJ. Line drive down the left field line, base hit. Over to get it, Crawford on his way to third. Ibar holding at first is Cron. So runners at first and third with 1 out. And let's see about Iannetta. Will also have a runner at first base, taking over for Cron. The runner will be Colin Cowgill. Take another look. He blistered that thing. Line drive single. So Cowgill is now the tying run at first. And now Don Mattingly going back out to the mound. So let's see. Cron certainly did his job. Chris Iannetta walked up to home plate. Now Howell walks out, and Iannetta goes back to the dugout, and the Dodgers will go to Brandon Lee, and we'll be right back. Cubs as Brandon Lee comes in. Dodgers hoping that Brandon will be back on the beam. Remember the last time he pitched against the Cubs, he walked the first 3 batters he faced. So he comes in now with Ibar at third, Cowgill at first, the Cowgill representing the tying run, and Chris Iannetta will bat for Hank Conger. Cowgill at first is 2 for 2 in stolen bases. Iannetta is batting .267, 5 home runs, 30 runs batted in. Last night, if you were watching and or listening in the second inning, Iannetta doubled to right against Kershaw and drove in 2 big runs. So Iannetta, formerly with the Rockies, hitting .267, 5 home runs, 30 runs batted in. He was a 4th round pick by Colorado out of the University of North Carolina. First and third, 1 out, 2-0 Dodgers. And ball 1. Iannetta, an even 6, .230. Originally signed by the Rockies. He played with them from '06 until coming to the Angels in 2012. One ball and no strike. And that's popped in the air to center. Tagging up his Ibar, but the big guy is the runner at first, Cowgill. And Puig will throw to the plate to his second baseman, Gordon. Smart play. Earlier, you might expect Puig only to think about the runner at third, but he was thinking Cowgill is the guy. He's the potential tying run. So Iannetta picks up a run, and the Dodgers still lead 2-1. That run is charged to Herron. So a good play by Yasiel. Now with 2 down, the batter is David Freese. Herron still a potential winner, but a lot of ways to go. Freese batted for John McDonald and singled in the 6th inning. Now it's also a battle between Lee and Cowgill as far as a stolen base attempt. Do you run him or do you wait on Freese? Justin Turner very deep at third, guarding the line. The outfield, however, pretty much straight away. And ball 1. Cowgill over at first. 2 for 2 in stolen bases. They haven't run him much, but he's carrying the mail over there. Cowgill in the minors stole as many as 30 bases. Big chopper. Here goes the shortstop. Rojas makes the low throw. Big play by Adrian Gonzalez. So Miguel just got into the game, and he's bailed out by Adrian. It looked for a moment like Turner might try to take the ball away from him, but I think Rojas hollered, "No me," and got his man. So 1 run, 2 hits, the tying run left, and we're going to the 9th in a dandy 2-1 Dodgers. clinging to what is now a 2-1 lead. Remember, RBI Baseball is back. All 30 MLB teams and 2014 players get the retro 2-button style baseball game you've been missing. Visit rbigame.com for more details. Download today on your console and mobile devices. Houston Street, marvelous closer, coming over to the Angels. He is 6 for 6 in saves. In this situation, it's not a save. He's just trying to save the score and let Calhoun, Trout, and Pujols do something about it in the bottom of the ninth. Chris Iannetta will take over, and down in the Dodger bullpen, Kenley Jansen loosening up. Boy, does this sound like a ball game that's written by a Hollywood writer. Houston Street wearing number 16. That was the number his dad wore. His father was a famous quarterback at the University of Texas. The first pitch to Andre Ethier is ball one. When Street came here, Hank Conger was wearing number 16, which is Ethier's number. Fouled away. And Conger gave Street the number 16. He knew the background about it. So Hank wears number 24 now. And Houston Street said, I'm going to do something very nice for Hank. Usually they'll buy the other fella maybe a watch, something like that. 1-2 the count. For Houston Street, he's done just what the Angels hoped for. 7 scoreless appearances, recording a save in each of the last 6. ERA less than 1. In the dirt. 2-2. Street came over from San Diego with Trevor Gott in exchange for a couple of minor league infielders, Taylor Lindsay, Jose Rondon, and 2 pitchers. Two balls, 2 strikes. Justin Turner waiting on deck. Fastball hit to deep center. Trout, however, has a play. 1 away. By the way, maybe it's catching. Do you see Trout? I mean, that was not a two-handed catch. Puig might hear from critics, but young Mike just did the same thing, that casual one-hand catch. Take a look. All right. Yep. And the batter now, Justin Turner. Don't look, Yasiel, don't look. Turner has walked, hit into a force play, single to right. Ball 1. Don't go wandering off now when the Angels come up in the ninth. Calhoun, Trout, and Pujols. If anybody gets on, Hamilton against Kenley Jansen. 2-0 to Justin. A.J. Ellis on deck. Fastball and a good one at 90 in the perfect spot. Street was an all-star, but did not appear in the game in Minnesota. Last game prior to tonight was the 3rd of the month against Tampa Bay. So he's 2-1 to Turner. Breaking ball whacked into left field. So Justin Turner continues his great work. He's 2 for 3 plus a walk tonight. And with 1 out, the batter is A.J. Ellis. Dodgers 2 runs, 9 hits.
The Angels 1 run, 4 hits. A.J. Ellis sacrificed, struck out, and flied to right. There goes Turner, and a hit and run ground ball to third. Freese gets the out, and Turner's at second base. So D. Gordon coming up. Gordon is 0 for 4. Bunted and was thrown out by Conger in the first inning. Struck out in the second, flied to center in the fourth, and struck out in the seventh. That was a big play with Turner at second base. So D. Gordon checking in with Puig on deck. Houston and Iannetta getting together. Two runs, 9 hits for the Dodgers. They've left 7. And the Angels 1 run, 4 hits. They've left 2. In the dirt. Nice block by Chris Iannetta. Dodgers scored 2 in the second inning. They also had the bases loaded and did not cash in. They had Turner at second base in the 7th inning with 1 out and left him in scoring position. Fastball line to center, and Trout is right there. So Gordon hits it hard, but lines out. All right, here comes the drama. Bottom of the 9th. Calhoun, Trout, Pujols, and Kenley Jansen. 2-1 Dodgers. Bottom of the 9th. Bottom of the 9th inning. You couldn't ask for much more. And Calhoun, Trout, and Pujols coming up against Kenley Jansen. Last night, Jansen came in and struck out David Freese. Then Chris Iannetta. And then, for good measure, Colin Cowgill. But that was last night. Now he's faced with the big challenge in the bottom of the 9th inning. So Kenley trying to save this win for Dan Herron. For Kenley Jansen, he's in his 50th game tonight. 13 walks and 71 strikeouts. Cole Calhoun 0 for 3 coming up. Mike Trout 0 for 3. Albert Pujols 0 for 3. Calhoun hit that big out. That was that line drive and the leaping catch by Adrian Gonzalez in the 6th inning. Calhoun batting .277. This crowd of 43,669. Not a soul moving, and you can certainly understand why. So here we go. Ball 1. Calhoun hit back to the box, struck out, and lined out. That was all against Dan Herron. It's been Herron, Howell, League, and now Jansen. Fastball lined into center, base hit. And now how about it? You have Trout and Pujols coming up with a runner at first and nobody out. This crowd is beside itself, understandably. How you doing? All right, Mike Trout coming up, representing a go-ahead run, as Calhoun represents a tying run. Calhoun has stolen 3, but he's been caught twice. And you would think that Socia would just let the game be in the hands of Trout and Pujols. Mike hitting .303. He has 25 home runs, 81 runs batted in. He has popped to short, fly to center, and popped up. Ball 1. I know everybody is thinking about it, so we will answer the question. Trout has homered 25 times. Jansen has given up 4 home runs. The league normally runs on Jansen. We'll see about Calhoun. Check swing, the look, no swing. 2-0 to Mike. Check holding that bat back. Trout has a birthday tomorrow. He'll be all of 23. Just to keep an eye on Calhoun. In Jansen's career, runners have been successful 26 out of 30 times. This year, however, just 2 out of 4. 2-0 to Trout. Ball 3. And of course, you have Albert Pujols on deck. Do you have the thought about Socia green lighting Trout 3-0? Well, we'll find out. Calhoun, the tying run at first, nobody out. 3 balls and no strikes. And a slider for a strike. The big pitch for Kenley Jansen the last year or so has been the cutter. Three balls and 1 strike.
Calhoun goes. And the throw down is not in time. So Calhoun steals second base. That is the Achilles tendon and heel for Jansen. So in his career now, they're successful 27 out of 31. Although looking at the way Calhoun looked back when he was running, that was probably a run and hit play, 3-1, and Trout just missed the pitch. So now the time runs at second with nobody out. Got him on a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. 1 out. Not much on that. I'll throw it as hard as I can. You swing as hard as you can, and let's see what happens. So Trout goes back empty-handed. 1 out. Now you have Pujols and Hamilton. Albert tonight hit back to the box, struck out, grounded to third. I don't know where he is. I look next door because AJ, his son, has been in the booth alongside of us, but he's not here. He's probably downstairs waiting for Dad in the clubhouse. So Albert 0 for 3 with the tying run at second, and Josh Hamilton on deck. And popped in the air, foul. AJ coming over, but the ball is not going to come back. It's in the crowd. 43,669 here tonight, and I'm sure there'll be a sizable crowd again tomorrow night. Hyun-Jin Ryu and C.J. Wilson. Giants won their game. They beat Milwaukee 7-4. Oakland lost. So the Dodgers trying to remain 2.5, and the Angels trying to be 1 back. And it's all on the line. Fastball hit in the air. It's playable. Tagging up is Calhoun. Puig for the catch, and Calhoun holds on a 1-hopper to Justin Turner. Oh, yes, give yourself a round of applause. Another great moment, and Yasiel Puig, who made that magnificent throw in the 6th inning, makes another dandy, although Calhoun was not really going to go. He'd have been done. 2-hand catch and perfect throw. So the game is now on the line. There's the bluff that Calhoun never thought of going. And the batter is Hamilton. Josh flied to left, grounded to short, grounded to second. 0 for 3, hitting .279. A lot of the fans standing now. Two runs, 9 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. 1 run, 5 hits, no errors for the Angels. Dodgers had chances. They left 8. The Angels have only left 2. Fastball, ball 1. So Jansen started 92 with Calhoun, got it up to 95 to strike out Trout. Now with Hamilton, he started in 95. 1 ball and no strikes. Fastball for a strike. And again, this now ups the ante, 96. the blue and the red. Great game, great rivalry, and one more tomorrow night. 1-2. Calhoun, the tying run at second, 2 out, 1 ball and 2 strikes to Hamilton. Just missed. Dodger fans groan, Angel fans sigh in relief. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Two and two. And he goes after doubles out of the strike zone to strike out. Kenley Jansen now has struck out 5 Angels in 2 innings. The Dodgers hang on to win it 2-1. The Dodgers remain 2.5 in front of the Giants. And the Angels remain 2 back of the losing Oaks. The player of the game, and what a story that would be, is Dan Haren. A 5-game losing streak. He had given up 22 home runs, and he went 7 1/3 innings without allowing a run tonight. A magnificent close. You can't ask for more. The Angels with the tying run at second, and Trout, Pujols, and Hamilton coming up. But Kenley Jansen had enough and shut the door. So tomorrow night, it's Hyun-Jin Ryu and C.J. Wilson. Till then, we wish you all a very pleasant